got in office today Jason and Laura from Circit. Very pleased that you guys have come all the way out from the UK. Jason, you want to just give a little bit of a background of yourself, and then Laura?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. So Jason O'Shaughnessy. I look after the Africa market for Circit. Circit's an audit platform for auditors to do confirmation requests, client collaboration, and also we connect to banks directly so we can improve that evidence efficiency.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Laura Scanlon, I'm based out of Ireland. Fund Service Partnership Director here at Circit for 5 years now. And I work basically with maintaining the relationships with evidence providers and Circit. So just ensuring a smooth onboarding and kind of adding efficiencies to those people that sign up to use Circit.
That's awesome. Jason, I've seen you've been in the accounting industry for quite a while. What drew you to it and what's kept you here?
It's I've kind of fallen into this industry. So previously I worked for companies that specialised in open banking, which is not something that's prevalent in South Africa yet. Europe, Australia, the UK absolutely is. It is coming to South Africa. It's not going to be a mandated thing by the banks, but the banks are, by the regulator, but the banks are adopting it. And I think come the end of the year, banks will make their data available via API. So that's kind of my background. Okay. And because of that background, some of the first applications that adopted that technology were accounting packages. Yes. So likes of Xero, Free Agent in the UK, QuickBooks, all of those organisations. So kind of spent some time in that industry. When Circit came along, very innovative, Series A funding. Yes. We're doing something that was creative into a space that has not been very creative over the last 10, 15 years. So that's what really brought me here. And the CEO is very innovative, and he had a big drive and ambition to try and do something different in this space, putting the client, the auditor, and the providers first, which, you know, often you'll have technology vendors come in and go, right, let's do this for the auditor. Let's do this for the provider. But he had a vision to say, right, let's make this work for everybody.
Because I know you spoke through the Circit service as well, how it has everyone almost held accountable, and not accountable, but also gets access to it as well. So it's very
transparent,
I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of our big key pieces, is that we're keeping everybody in the loop. So, you know, the auditors typically, you know, create the request. Your clients or their clients sign the request, sign their letters of authority, and the banks then provide that evidence back. So with Circit and with all of these parties using the platform, it just becomes a transparent place to house this information, because let's say an evidence provider is delaying providing back some evidence, that's fine, that's identifiable. But in a lot of cases, and apologies to the auditors here, but in a lot of cases, some firms actually maybe haven't given the request in the correct format. So again, it's not about blame game, it's just about actually deciding who's holding up what and just being able to rectify that for future cases. So again, it's about having that
transparency.
Ease of communication and transparency. Yeah.
And Rory, you said earlier your background was from
fund accounting. Yeah. So I've previously, before Circit, I was fund accounting for close to 10 years, and then joined Circit. And traditionally speaking, Circit was for auditors.
Yes. Clients,
banks. But then we realised that there's quite a landscape there within fund service providers who also respond back to audit requests. And again, in my previous role, I would have dealt with that on a yearly basis, and seen the kind of pain that's there, the duplicate tasks that's there, and then realised that, you know, Circit can actually change how these audits are dealt with as well. And obviously, you know, the auditors doing these fund audits, it's quite heavy workload, and again, duplicate queries is something that comes up. So we have also onboarded a number of fund service providers, be it fund admins, transfer agents, investment managers, basically onto Circit, who again can have full transparency, full access to the audit requests that are coming from the firms, be it, you know, your Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and then the investment manager who wants to see what's been passed back to the auditors, they can then see that as well. So again, it's, if you want to simplify it, it's about just marrying all of the parties together and giving them access and suppose, visibility.
That's awesome. And Jason, you said it's more than just a bank confirmation now, a Circit. Take us through some of the things, or the suite of things that Circit can provide for firms.
Yeah, so we try to provide a platform. If you think about the core elements to auditing, so we've typically been very much focused around evidence.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we want auditors to be able to trust 100% the evidence that we're giving them. So you've got confirmations, you've got PBC, client collaboration, where you're requesting documentation. You want to make sure that's a secure process. And then you've got signing as an added feature. On the confirmation side, we deliver that reliability that we can get you the bank confirmation request directly from the bank, quickly, efficiently. We give a dashboard to the bank so that the bank can track and monitor everything. There's no more, in some organizations, you've got things like big problems where they get lots of denials,
yes.
where banks are saying, you haven't got the right information, we'll deny the request. You then go back online, you submit a request, you may even get charged for that request again. We remove that whole pain process. So there's no denials, there's no double, treble, quadruple charges.
Yes.
We make that easy for the, so that both the auditor and the bank can communicate with each other.
Perfect.
On the back of that, we also enable the auditors to do any kind of confirmation request, because typically they're sending confirmations for, let's say, legal,
yes.
debtor requests, bank requests. They're all coming from different mechanisms. Maybe it's email, maybe it's another tool. So we simplify that so you can track everything and send everything from one place. We also make that very easy to things like debtors requests. We think we've revolutionized that space. We've made it easy for auditors to get responses quickly versus having to chase up those requests 2, 3, 4 months later and giving up. So we believe we've improved that. And then finally, we actually connect directly into banks. So we're able to automate that process of getting a bank confirmation, as well as things like bank statement history directly from the bank. So an auditor can rely on the fact that when I'm requesting, let's say, 14 months worth of bank statement data for my client, it's not my client sending it to me and me having to rely on it. It's the bank sending it to me. And that's at the top of the call when we talked about South Africa.
Yes.
They will be ready for that. The banks are producing those APIs. Come the end of the year, we'll connect to all of those APIs for those banks, and we'll be able to bring that same service we offer in other parts of the world into South Africa.
I think that's like one of the takes of our next question is that what are you seeing in terms of, I want to say, regulatory or what's accepted or normal in Europe or the States versus in South Africa at the moment?
Yeah, I suppose what we've seen is obviously with open banking in Europe, it's become the norm, if you like. It is kind of becoming that bit more spoken about in the US. And then again, with South Africa, it's becoming, again, more open, people are more aware of it, and that it's probably coming down the line. I do think it probably raises a little bit of, an eyebrow kind of raise at times, because what does this mean? Why are the banks putting all this work into it? Who is it to benefit?
Yes.
But I suppose it's tried and tested in Europe, so it's not that it's, an unknown territory.
Yes.
And yeah, I suppose that's one of the key kind of pieces that's happening in Europe. And I suppose then just to kind of go back a little bit, one of the big things with Circit, be it Europe, the US, South Africa, it's about offering that choice.
Yes.
And choice is one of our key, I suppose, benefits. If you take an auditor perspective, you've got some small audit firms that maybe send audit confirmations via email today, or potentially via post. Not so sure that still happens in South Africa, but in some countries that is happening. And then you've got banks who receive requests, maybe they have one channel to receive these, and that's a hard stop, right? But with Circit, whether you're an auditor or whether you're a bank, we allow you to continue accepting and sending your requests in the format that you currently want to or currently do. However, we can add and streamline how you send your responses. So, for example, if you're an audit firm, you want to use Circit, great, you can send the requests however the evidence provider wants to receive them. But if you're a bank and you want to use Circit, you don't need to force any audit firm to send it in a specific format, but you can still streamline how you respond. So to take me back to your question in terms of Europe and the US, that's one of the key benefits, is having that choice there for your clients.
Yes.
So you're just not forcing anybody to use one particular means of communication.
Yeah, and I think just extending on the regulation piece. So the UK, Europe and Australia, the regulators have mandated that banks provide you access to data via an API.
Yes.
So they have to do it.
Okay.
And that's been around now for about 4 or 5 years. Australia, I think, has been about a year. You've got other markets like the US kind of hovering around becoming a regulated thing, so the banks have to do it versus banks opting to do it on their own. South Africa, the regulator did, the FSCA did look at how do we regulate this and pull back and said, actually, why don't we let the banks create the innovation and create their own APIs? And, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It means it probably takes a little bit longer for the banks to follow suit. But the other side of that is once banks start to make their data available, and so if you think about pulling bank statement data as a bare minimum, all of a sudden there's more data they can provide and they can see a way of maybe generating revenue from that benefits both the bank, third parties like us, and then organisations like auditors who want more information that helps them with the audit process.
Because that's quite interesting, that having that API almost that's linked to the bank, all those bank accounts. Do you see in the audit environment in the future heading towards almost a 24/7 audit where a provider would be able to monitor bank accounts, etc., and then maybe flag to the auditor, maybe these are unusual transactions, or I want to say catch on the whole AI thing, use AI to trigger that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's one of our use cases currently in fund service providers. So fund admins are using Circit to have that 24/7 connectivity.
So it's here already.
Yeah, to almost 4,000 different banks, globally. And they're essentially what previously would have been done via potentially physical token or in some cases logging into various banks and just viewing the transactions. This has now been done via Circit, and it can be refreshed almost hourly, to identify any of these transactions that might spring a little bit of a query and say, what's causing this? I need additional backup for it. So it is being used in fund service providers, but I do probably envisage that it will become, as you said, like almost a 24/7 audit for auditors, because it's probably about adding efficiencies and not leaving everything until the final day. So I can't see why that wouldn't potentially happen down the line.
Yeah, and I think with open banking, with Circit's delivering that today. So if you, as an auditor, once you've got your connection authorized by your client, you can go off and do a balance confirmation check whenever you want, at any time of the day. I can just simply go pull the balance, because when the client authorizes you, you get authorization to access the account for a period of time. That's part of the consent flow. Once you've got that, I can turn and say, right, maybe you need to do something 3 months later to check something. I can go whack and it will go off and get me a balance from there and then.
Post-balance sheet event testing and stuff.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, that's like one of the things where you now need to go and, if you have those 15 accounts, to try and pull that again at that date.
Exactly.
I think it's, what I've seen in the industry is obviously the big push for quality. And I think there's that, and I think everyone sees audit as almost a looking back kind of thing. Whereas I think if we get to, obviously with the side of quality on being introduced, is be able to preempt these things instead of turning around and saying, listen, there was this thing, we should have probably done a purchase price. We may had a large purchase. Did you do a purchase price allocation when you bought this subsidiary? Instead of asking it 8 months later, 12 months later, you can have those questions almost triggered automatically. So I think for a lot of the regulators, a big push.
Yeah, I suppose again, it's just taking it back to the transparency, isn't it? Like it's just about, like, everyone needs to be kept in the loop anyway. So as you said, even if it's 8 months down the line, so why not kind of just do it on almost on a year-round basis, and raise those queries as and when they're needed to be addressed?
I bumped into Jason at DAS, the digital accounting show in London earlier this year. I know a lot of these events, there's a lot of talk about AI, and what were your big takeaways, or what's the thing that's changing the most in accounting at the moment?
there's so many things happening. AI is becoming a really big thing in accounting. Everyone's there's two elements. Everyone's looking at how can they use AI, and then everyone's looking at how quickly can I put AI into it. And you've got one camp which is, does AI mean that I have to lose a whole bunch of people, or does AI mean I get things done quicker, more efficient, I can take on more work? And so I think AI is probably the biggest component, and you can use AI around looking through receipts and matching them with expenses, for example. You can use AI for matching GL against transactional data. So there's so many applications. The nice thing in our industry, like many others, is, you know, I don't think people are afraid of AI. They want to embrace it. They're just trying to work out where can I use AI to get the most efficiencies? Because there will be a lot of solution providers out there that will provide AI that will be a nice thing, but really isn't adding real value. Yeah, exactly.
And Laura, any thoughts in terms of where you think maybe AI could change or the accounting landscape?
I suppose, like, I mean, it's inevitable that it's spoken about, and it's coming, or it's here in some instances. But as you said, like Jason, it's about, like, rather than saying, here's AI, let's use it, like really identifying where it's going to benefit you. And I think that's probably going to be one of the trickier elements, because again, just is it a case that you want to use AI, or is it a case that you need to use AI? And I think maybe there's going to be a little spike in everybody, you know, the AI bus, if we want to call it that. But I do think it might, you know, realize that you don't need to use it. Like, it's just because it's here, it's not going to, you're not going to need it. But again, if it fits, absolutely use it.
And Laura brings up a great point, is that you always have to remember AI is only good if your data is good. And if you've got bad data, so we would, I mean, using AI to match your transaction history against your GL, you've got to be confident that the data in the GL and the data in the transaction is robust, which is one of the reasons why we pull transactional data directly from the bank, because we can trust that data. Be the same as the GL. We'll go in and pull the GL straight out of the ERP system or the client system. So we know that the data that we're running that AI on for matching purposes is going to be correct.
Exactly. And I had a partner who used to tell me, if you wanted to, I could reconcile your electric statement to your bank, to your phone book. Numbers are numbers.
Exactly.
I thought it was funny at DAS, someone said they've now got an AI that can spot an AI adapted receipt. So we've almost gone full circle with AI now catching out AI.
You need AI to check up on the AI.
Exactly.
Jason,
Laura, you guys are here in Cape Town at the moment, meeting clients, and I think you said Durban, and next week you've got something happening in Johannesburg, Randburg.
Joburg, yeah. So we're again meeting with clients next week in Joburg. We've got a Circit event on the Wednesday where we've got some big name audit firms and clients talking about both how they've benefited from our collaboration product, but also around the whole confirmation process. So the pains that they see today, you know, some of the positives they've got out of using a tool like Circit and moving to us, but also where is confirmations going? So it looks like this is what you were dealing with X months ago. This is what you've got today. But where is confirmations going? To your point, can you automate all of this? Can you make it more efficient? Can you cut out a couple of steps so that, you know, you press a button and you haven't even got to wait for the bank team to come back to you and give you everything? So,
because I think in South Africa, everyone's got this one provider, and they don't even think about the whole ecosystem where PBC request, instead of having everything done over email, you can sort of have that one ecosystem. So I think it would be I think it's, from what you guys we chatted earlier, about what can actually be done with it. I think it'd be great for people to go and attend. I think just hear all the different, because I think it's not just the bank side, it's the debtors, the legal, I think, and put it all in one place. So I think just to remove all the emails. I think another big problem I know a lot of the accounting firms have, experienced myself, is that one team starts and rolls on, they send the emails off, maybe CC one or two people in, and then by the time the confirmation are completed, that person's rolled off, gone to another job kind of thing, or their contract's ended, and then the responses are coming to someone who's not even manning the inbox. I think when it's on an online portal.
Yeah.
It's all, like I said, the transparency is right there.
Collaboration and transparency. Like, I think, again, to bring it back, they're really the two main things that Circit really solves. It's about keeping everybody aware of where things are at, and then the security element. Because as you said, a lot of things are done via email. With Circit, we're ISO 27701 and we're SOC 2 certified. So that's giving you additional security there that isn't with your email. And, you know, in today's, like we were talking about AI a second ago, you see how maybe unsecure email is becoming. So it's about putting precautions in place prior to, you know, hopefully avoid any kind of security breach via a mailbox, essentially.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for coming. Really appreciated your time. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Awesome.
Cheers.